welcome to Cinema Wellman. I am your host, David, and another month has passed us by as April and its showers gives way to May and all its flowers, along with a new crop of movies, as always. April was a down month as far as recent movie totals go, and it was also a bit of a down month for movies that I'll be recommending. I watched a bunch of Oscar-nominated films from the 40s and 50s, and nothing really stood out to me, so today's list is going to be a bit small by comparison to previous best and worst episodes. Not to worry, though. There are always movies to talk about here in Cinema Wellman, slow month or not. Let's start with the bottom, as we always do. The first two were leftovers from our airplane movie screenings, and they were so bad I didn't want to sully that list with their inclusion. I will, however, sully today's list because it's all about the worst and the best of the month. They were also screened in late March, so. First up, Kiefer Sutherland plays the same character he always does, but this one's an air traffic controller. From 1998, it's Ground Control. IMDb for starters. A disgraced former air traffic controller is called back into service when the airport's traffic control system malfunctions. With apologies to Bill Hader and Stefan, Ground Control has everything. Kiefer Sutherland playing Jack Bauer as an air traffic controller without killing anyone. Hot-shot young gun disrespecting the disgraced veteran. You gotta come take a look at this cliche more than a couple times. Former disgraced character is the only chance and comes through at all odds. Computer genius who needs just 20 minutes to totally fix the entire situation. Is that Fonzie? They dragged poor Henry Winkler into this, and I love the fact that I think that this was the same exact soundtrack that was used for Under Siege. Next on the worst list is a movie I think I'll only have to say the title of before moving on. From 2014, Airplane versus Volcano. Right? All right, next up is the worst movie of the month, and it's a movie that I'm sure had good intentions when released in 1970, but good God, it looks awful today. It's Diary of a Mad Housewife, directed by Frank Perry. Let me begin by saying that my negative reaction to this film has nothing to do with star Carrie Snodgrass, who plays the title character named Tina. Tina is the Mad Housewife. Snodgrass received her only Oscar nomination for this film, and it was well-deserved. She was tremendous in what I'm sure was a groundbreaking performance dealing with a then-current topic 54 years ago, and unfortunately it's still a current topic. A trigger warning that this film, and my review, if you want to call it that, deals with spousal abuse. Let's begin with IMDb. A housewife with an abusive husband has an affair with a writer. It should have read, a housewife with an abusive husband has an affair with an abusive writer. The abusive husband is played by Richard Benjamin, and he is hateful. He is condescending, and he even belittles his wife in front of their children. No surprise that the children treat mom very disrespectfully as well because of how their father behaves in front of them. He is critical of Tina's appearance and treats her like a servant for much of the film. I hated him, which means Benjamin did his job. But it also made me kind of sick thinking that this was possibly a societal norm at the time. Remember, film always is a mirror of society at the time. Was this a normal situation for a housewife to be verbally abused like this? So Tina looks for escape in an affair with a writer played by Frank Langella. His character makes Richard Benjamin's character look like husband of the year at times. He is just as abusive, if not more abusive, as Tina's husband. And none of this abuse is physical abuse. She is never struck, she's never hit, during the whole film. It's all psychological abuse, which I can only imagine is just as damaging. I felt the same reaction as I do when I watch scenes that feature physical violence against women. I guess the real reason this film is on the worst list this month, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the chances of you seeing this, I think, are slim, is that in the end, Tina doesn't win. I was hoping she would escape her abusive marriage and dump the abusive boyfriend and start her life over with the emphasis on her. Instead, the film ends with a close-up of Snodgrass's eyes over audio of a dinner table argument. She is stuck, and she will remain stuck. She's abused, and unfortunately, she'll remain abused. Great performance, but extremely depressing, and I'm once again disappointed in men's behavior. I've said that before. I never could understand how men could be so hurtful to the women they supposedly love. It was the worst of the month because I think of the way it made me feel. It's not necessarily a bad film. And remember, interpretation of any kind of art, whether it be books or paintings or sculptures or film, it's really personal. All right, difficult segue, but let's move on to the good stuff we screened in April. We're going to start with something from 2024, and it's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I almost didn't see this because of the title. It reminded me too much of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is a movie I did not enjoy. Why such an odd title? Well, it's based on a true story, and that's the name that was used. That's what they were called. IMDb tells us the British military recruits a small group of highly skilled soldiers to strike against German forces behind enemy lines during World War II. I think what I liked most about this film is that it reminded me of the way war movies used to be made when I was a kid. Other than the violence, this film is ultra violent. And I couldn't even begin to guess what the body count is. I wonder if the interwebs, do they have that information for us? You do realize there's a website titled Movie Body Counts, yes? No, they don't have it yet. This film isn't yet in their database, or their counter broke. Suffice to say that hundreds of people are killed by the ministry in this movie. The humorous part is that this ministry is made up of only about a half dozen people. This is like the dirty half dozen. And don't fret about all those dead people. They were all Nazis. Can't have enough dead Nazis, I always say. While the violence leans a little bit towards comic book stuff, occasionally Guy Ritchie still delivers a satisfying World War II action film. Since it's based on a true story, we see photos of the men who were really part of the ministry. I'm sure they'd be stunned to find out that they were portrayed by Henry Cavill, Alex Pettyfer, and Alan Reacher Richardson. That is one handsome trio right there. No offense intended towards the men whose photos I saw. They didn't stack up. I would have liked a bit more background for some of the characters, but the action sequences made up for that, which happens quite a bit in action movies. Speaking of action, our best film of April is a Wuxia film, so you'll get all kinds of action. Wuxia literally means martial arts and chivalry, and it's a genre of Chinese fiction concerning the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. From 1979, directed by friend of Cinema Wellman, Che Chang, The Magnificent Ruffians. Wuxia films are an important piece to the Cinema Wellman universe. I've already spoken about it in previous episodes. My roommate Robert and I spent many a Saturday afternoon at BU watching martial arts theater. on channel 56 or channel 38. I can never remember which one, and that may be due to what Robert and I did during each and every one of these screenings, but that's neither here nor there. These poorly dubbed kung fu movies featured all sorts of fighting with and without weapons, sometimes using stools and benches, along with the universal conflict of which kung fu school or style was the best. Oh, and people fly every once in a while. No explanation given. No one ever even talks about it. People just fly every now and then while they're fighting. The Magnificent Ruffians isn't the best Wuxia film I've ever seen, but it's on the best list this month because of its overall significance. It happens to be the 9,000th film I've screened. And ever since number 5,000, which was Mad Monkey Kung Fu, I've celebrated with these milestones with a Wuxia film, and will continue to do so. Special thanks to Larry for assisting with choices these past few years. He and I always try to choose a Shaw Brothers production, Venom Mob if we can find them, or a film directed by our friend Chet Chang. The Magnificent Ruffians checked all those boxes. And it also flew now and then. Well, that is a wrap from here in Cinema Wellman for our best and worst of April. We have a couple of special episodes coming up very soon with surprise guests, so I'm not going to tease next week right now. We hope you'll be joining us regardless of what's going on. You know you're always welcome here at Cinema Wellman. Until next time, take care.